The crackling static in Hayes' earpiece was drowned out by the deafening roar of an explosion. He barely registered it, focusing instead on the battlefield ahead. His boots pounded against the cracked concrete, the remnants of a city long forgotten beneath the steel-clad boots of the invaders. The earth he fought to protect had already been torn apart, the skies above it now filled with the low hum of enemy ships, their engines a constant reminder that time was running out. "Captain, we've lost the north side!" Sergeant Miranda Cole's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and urgent. "They're pushing us back!" Hayes didn't look up. His focus remained on the map flickering in front of him, projections of the Hyrillian forces' movements across the city. The enemy was relentless, outnumbering them 3-1. They had already breached the outer defenses, their alien technology proving far superior to Earth's best. The Hyrillians weren't here to negotiate, they were here to exterminate. He adjusted the rifle slung over his shoulder, its weight a reminder of the endless battles he'd fought, the wars he'd survived. But nothing had prepared him for this, the totality of the destruction, the sheer scale of the invasion. Humanity was teetering on the edge of extinction. If they lost this battle, there would be nothing left to fight for. The wind howled as they neared the city's central square. The buildings, once towering symbols of human achievement, were now nothing more than shattered skeletons. The streets were littered with debris, fires still smoldering in every corner. A soft, eerie hum filled the air as the Hyrillian forces regrouped for their final push. "We need to take out that command center," Hayes said, his voice unwavering despite the chaos. He turned to Cole, locking eyes with her. "If we don't, the city's lost. If we don't, humanity's finished." "I hear you, Captain," Cole replied, her expression hardening. "But we're running on fumes here. Our ammunition's nearly gone, and the reinforcements we were promised are nowhere to be found. We can't do this alone." Hayes knew she was right. The battle had stretched them thin. His squad was exhausted, the weight of too many battles pressing down on them. And the Hyrillians were showing no sign of slowing down. But Hayes wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. "We'll make it," he said, his voice low. "We'll make them regret underestimating us. Human resolve doesn't break that easily." As they approached the wreckage of the command center, Hayes' fingers twitched around his rifle. The building had once been the nerve center of human resistance in the city. Now it was a hollow shell, its walls charred and cracked. The faint sounds of Hyrillian chatter echoed through the building's remains. "Captain," Cole said, her voice tight with suspicion. "Something's off. This place is too quiet. They're expecting us." "Don't let your guard down," Hayes replied, his eyes narrowing. He signaled to the rest of the squad to spread out, moving carefully through the debris. "Move fast, keep low." The squad advanced with military precision, their movements silent despite the intense pressure. Hayes could feel the weight of the moment, the gravity of their mission bearing down on him. They were walking into the heart of enemy territory, the core of the Hyrillian invasion. If they didn't destroy this command center, the war would be lost. As they entered the building, the eerie silence deepened. The usual hum of alien machinery was absent. Hayes paused, scanning the surroundings. His gut told him something was wrong, but he couldn't pinpoint it. Then, his earpiece buzzed with an urgent transmission. "Captain," a voice crackled, distorted by static. "This is Quinn. I've got eyes on something, on the other side of the building. You need to see this." "On our way," Hayes responded, his heartbeat picking up speed. Quinn, their tech specialist, had always been the team's eyes and ears. If she'd seen something, it meant trouble. They moved quickly, their boots echoing in the silence as they crossed the hall toward Quinn's position. The tension in the air was palpable, every corner a potential threat. Hayes' grip on his rifle tightened. They reached the observation deck, a large, open space overlooking the rest of the facility. Quinn was kneeling beside a large console, her fingers flying over the keys, the glow of her screen illuminating her focused face. "Captain, look at this," Quinn said, her voice tense. "It's not just a command center. There's a hidden sublevel here. I've accessed a portion of their network. There's something under the building." What kind of something? Hayes asked, leaning in. Quinn hesitated for a moment, her face a mix of confusion and concern. I can't fully decrypt the files, but what I've got shows traces of energy signatures, alien signatures, beneath the facility. There's a structure buried deep under the city. And judging by the readings, it's not a weapon. It's a facility of some kind. They're hiding something. Hayes' mind raced. The Hyrillians weren't just here to invade, they were here for something more. And whatever it was, it had to be stopped. Is there a way to get to it? Hayes asked. Quinn looked up at him, her face grim. We could try, but we're running out of time. The Hyrillians are already mobilizing. We won't get another shot at this. There's no choice. We go in, Hayes said, his voice firm. Cole, get the squad ready. We're heading deeper. The rest of the squad assembled quickly, their faces filled with determination. Hayes knew this was their only shot. They had to find what the Hyrillians were hiding, destroy it, and cripple their invasion. But deep down, Hayes felt a sinking feeling in his chest. Whatever the Hyrillians had buried beneath the city, it wasn't just another weapon. It was something far more dangerous. As they descended into the depths of the facility, Hayes' mind raced. This was no longer just a battle for survival. This was a fight for humanity's very existence. And the stakes had never been higher. To be continued. The air in the facility was thick with tension, every footstep echoing louder than it should. Captain Jonathan Hayes moved quickly, his rifle clutched in his hands as he scanned every corner, his team at his back. The walls around them flickered with strange alien symbols, their glow faint but unnerving, casting a cold light on the desolate room. The world outside had already fallen apart, but this, the facility, the secrets buried within it, was their last chance. We're not the only ones who want this, Hayes muttered to himself, looking over his shoulder at Sergeant Miranda Cole, who was following closely behind. Keep your eyes peeled. The Hyrillians won't give up this easy. We'll make them, Cole replied, her voice tight with focus. She was a seasoned veteran, unflinching in the face of overwhelming odds, and the weight of their mission wasn't lost on her. Humanity's last chance was hidden deep in this alien fortress. Their footsteps were joined by the soft clicks of Quinn, their tech expert, as she navigated through the narrow passageways with precision, working furiously at a holographic interface that had appeared in the air. She had to crack the facility's systems, unlock its secrets. The information contained here might be humanity's salvation, or its doom. I'm getting close, Quinn said, her fingers dancing across the glowing interface. This place, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. Hayes nodded, but his mind wasn't on the strange alien tech. The Hyrillians were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. He'd seen their tactics, efficient, methodical, with no mercy. The stakes had never been higher. Ahead, the corridor opened into a large chamber. The walls were lined with strange devices, each one glowing with a pulsing energy. The room smelled of ozone, and the floor beneath them hummed with a low frequency, as if the entire place was alive. Hayes' instincts screamed that they were close to something important. Stay alert, Hayes warned, eyes scanning the surroundings. The shadows in the corners seemed to grow darker the longer he looked at them. I can feel it. We're being watched. They moved forward, step by step, until the light of their flashlights illuminated the center of the room. At the far end, a pedestal stood, glowing with a strange, radiant energy. On it rested an artifact, something beyond human comprehension. It looked like a weapon, but not in any way he recognized. It was ancient, carved with runes that seemed to shift as his eyes focused on them, as if the symbols were changing before him. Quinn stopped in her tracks. Captain, that's it. That's what they're after. What is it? Cole asked, her tone a mixture of awe and suspicion. I don't know yet, Quinn replied. But it's tied to the entire facility's power grid. If we activate it, if the Hyrillians do... Her voice trailed off. Hayes took a cautious step forward, his fingers gripping his rifle tighter. We can't let them get it. We need to find out what it does. Suddenly, A crackling sound echoed through the room. A voice. A low, mechanical hiss filled the air, reverberating off the walls. Hayes froze, his heart pounding in his chest. The sound wasn't human. "Captain?" Quinn shouted, pulling him back. "We've been compromised. The Hyrillians are here!" Hayes's mind raced. They didn't have much time. They had to secure the artifact and extract the data they needed. But as he looked around, the room filled with shadows, shapes, too many to count, closing in from every angle. "You know what to do," Hayes barked. "Hold your ground." His team fell into position, weapons raised, their eyes scanning the walls. The Hyrillians would be upon them in seconds. Hayes had no illusions about the power of their enemies. But if humanity was going to survive, they couldn't go down without a fight. Not today. A loud crash sounded, and the doors at the far end of the room exploded open. The first of the Hyrillian soldiers stormed in, their tall, armored forms filling the entrance, their 6 glowing eyes fixed on the humans. They moved like a coordinated wave, their weapons aimed and ready. The room was soon filled with their growls and the sound of their weapons charging up. "Fire!" Hayes shouted. The first few shots rang out, the hum of plasma fire lighting up the dim room. The Hyrillians didn't flinch. They were coming at them, fast and fierce. Each soldier fell with a precise shot to the chest, but there were too many. The aliens moved in waves, their bodies impervious to the human weapons. It was a massacre. "Quinn!" Hayes yelled, not daring to look back. "Is it ready?" "I'm trying," she shouted back, her voice rising with panic. "It's almost there, but I need more time." Hayes took a deep breath, squeezing the trigger as another Hyrillian soldier fell. He couldn't let the enemy get to the artifact. The mission had to succeed, or humanity was finished. The war would be lost. This was the turning point. "Cole, give Quinn cover!" Hayes ordered, as he dove toward the pedestal. He could see Quinn's hands trembling as she worked at the console. The alien language flashed across the screen, faster than he could track, but Quinn didn't slow. She was determined to crack it. "Hold them back!" Cole screamed, firing a barrage of plasma rounds at the advancing aliens. Hayes reached the pedestal and crouched beside it, glancing around the room. The alien soldiers were closing in fast. They were on the verge of overwhelming them. His fingers hovered above the pedestal's controls, heart pounding. He didn't know what the artifact would do, but they had no choice now. Another explosion rocked the room. The sound was deafening. Part of the wall collapsed, sending dust and debris into the air. Through the haze, Hayes could see the leader of the Hyrillian forces, a tall, menacing figure in the back of the room, his body glowing with an eerie blue light. HFY. The alien overlord, his eyes fixed on the humans with contempt. "You cannot stop us, Captain Hayes." HFY's voice echoed in the room, cold and mocking. "Your world is already lost." Hayes's heart skipped. The war wasn't over. But he would not let HFY's words be the last. Humanity wasn't ready to die. Not now, not ever. "We'll see about that," Hayes growled, his finger pressing down on the final command. The artifact responded. The room exploded in light, a brilliant pulse of energy flashing outward. For a moment, everything went white. Then the sound of the Hyrillian forces faltered, as if their very bodies were being pulled back from the light. Hayes's heart raced. What had happened? Did they trigger something? Or had they just unleashed something far worse? "Captain?" Cole's voice came through the haze. "What did you do?" Hayes turned to see Quinn, a stunned expression on her face, her hands still clutching the console. The walls of the room seemed to pulse with the artifact's energy. The Hyrillians were retreating, their bodies shuddering as the pulse rippled through their ranks. "I think," Hayes said, his voice low, "we've just found the weapon that can win this war." But even as the words left his mouth, Hayes knew that the battle had only just begun. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the fate of the galaxy. To be continued. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and burned metal as Captain Hayes and his squad crept through the ruins of the Hyrillian facility. Their movements were cautious, precise. Every step taken could be their last. The battle outside was still raging, but their mission had shifted. This was no longer about holding the line. It was about uncovering the truth that could save humanity. "We're close," Hayes murmured to his team, his voice barely above a whisper. He could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on him like a physical force. This was it, the last chance to turn the tide of the war. Sergeant Miranda Cole, his most trusted officer, glanced back at him, her eyes filled with determination. "We've got this, Captain. Just keep us moving." The ground beneath them rumbled. The vibrations of distant explosions echoed through the building's shattered walls. The Hyrillians were relentless. Hayes could hear the unmistakable sound of their heavy footsteps and mechanical roars in the distance. They were closing in fast. Hayes adjusted his weapon and nodded. "Stay sharp. We don't know what we're dealing with inside." They reached the door, its sleek alien surface humming with a low-energy pulse. The security system, a complex mess of wires and glowing symbols, stood between them and whatever lay beyond. Quinn, the team's tech expert, worked quickly, hacking into the security grid with fluid precision. "I'm in," Quinn said, her voice tight with concentration. "Prepare yourselves." The door slid open, revealing a massive chamber beyond, its walls lined with unfamiliar symbols. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, glowing faintly with a soft, pulsating light. But it wasn't the pedestal that caught Hayes' attention, it was the object resting upon it. A relic. An artifact that didn't belong in this time. "What the hell is that?" Cole breathed. Hayes stepped forward cautiously, eyes fixed on the object. It resembled something between a weapon and a power source, its smooth, metallic surface covered in ancient runes. But it was the energy radiating from it that unsettled him. It felt wrong. Too powerful for anything humanity should have uncovered. "Whatever it is, the Hyrillians want it," Quinn said, her voice thick with disbelief. "Not just want it, need it," Hayes replied, his voice low. "This isn't just a weapon. It's something much worse." Before he could take another step, a shrill alarm blared across the facility, filling the air with an ear-piercing sound. The lights flickered and dimmed, and the walls trembled. The Hyrillians were here. "Captain?" Cole yelled, her hand on her gun. "We've got incoming! We're not alone!" Hayes turned to see the doorway filling with Hyrillian soldiers, their sleek, armored forms appearing like shadows in the dim light. The soldiers' eyes glowed a faint red, their weapons raised and ready. The battle for this relic had begun. "Get to cover!" Hayes shouted. Quinn scrambled behind a pillar, her hands moving rapidly over her console. "I'm locking down the doors, but we don't have much time." The Hyrillians were relentless, charging forward with terrifying speed. Hayes raised his rifle, firing into the advancing line of soldiers. His shots were precise, but the enemy's armor was made of something far beyond human technology, making each hit less effective than it should have been. "I need more time, Captain!" Quinn called out, her fingers dancing over the console. "This artifact, it's linked to the facility's power grid. If I can get it online, we might have a chance." "Do it!" Hayes ordered, ducking behind cover as an explosion shook the room. The debris from the blast rained down, adding chaos to the already intense scene. "We're not leaving without that thing!" Cole was covering their position, taking down 2 Hyrillian soldiers with swift precision. "I'm not going anywhere!" she yelled back. "But this is getting crazy!" The Hyrillians kept coming, their numbers overwhelming, their movements coordinated. It was like they knew everything about the humans' tactics, their every move. The thought gnawed at Hayes. How much did they know? Was there more to this than a simple invasion? The alien soldiers pressed on, their weapons charging up for a powerful burst. One soldier stepped forward, his weapon aimed directly at Hayes. "No!" Quinn shouted, her eyes wide with panic. But Hayes was faster. He dove toward the soldier, firing off a quick, calculated shot that took the alien out before it could react. But the victory was fleeting. Another wave of Hyrillians emerged from the shadows, pushing them further back. "We need to move!" Hayes shouted. "Fall back to the relic! We hold them there!" Reluctantly, his squad obeyed. They sprinted toward the artifact, using it as a last-ditch defense. As they reached the pedestal, Quinn hurriedly connected her interface to the device, trying to unlock its hidden power. The alien language flashed across her screen in a blur of symbols, each one more complex than the last. Come on, Quinn muttered, her fingers trembling. A low rumble shook the ground again. The lights flickered once more, and the Hyrillians were nearly upon them. Hayes glanced at his team. "If we don't make it out of here, we make sure the Hyrillians don't either. We fight until the end." Cole nodded, her face grim. "We're not losing today, Captain." In one final, desperate push, Quinn activated the artifact. A pulse of blue light surged through the room, illuminating everything in a flash. The walls shook, the ground trembling beneath them. The alien soldiers froze for a moment, their heads turning toward the artifact, seemingly confused, as if the power had disrupted their control systems. But it wasn't enough. The Hyrillians regained their composure and advanced again. This time, however, the artifact wasn't just a weapon, it was a beacon. The energy pouring from it intensified, and the entire facility seemed to hum with a low, resonating power. Suddenly, the door behind them exploded open, and more reinforcements stormed in. But they weren't Hyrillians. Human soldiers, Earth's final hope, had arrived. "About damn time," Hayes muttered, relief flooding him. The new arrivals were a mix of elite soldiers and military engineers, equipped with weapons that pulsed with the same strange energy as the artifact. Their guns fired in sync, pushing the Hyrillians back. With the new reinforcements joining the fight, Hayes turned back to Quinn. "Get us to that ship, Quinn. Now." The room was filled with the chaotic noise of battle, but the light from the artifact burned brighter, signaling the beginning of the end. The Hyrillians had found the true terror in humanity, resilience born from desperation, and a weapon unlike anything they had ever seen before. The war was no longer just a fight for survival. It had become something more. It was humanity's revenge. To be continued. The walls of the underground facility trembled with the force of distant explosions. Hayes and his squad had descended deep below the surface, navigating through dark, twisting corridors lit only by the faint hum of alien technology. The air was thick with tension, their every footstep echoing in the silence that seemed to stretch forever. "This is it," Hayes muttered to himself, his voice barely above a whisper. The deeper they went, the more alien the surroundings became. The metallic walls were covered in strange symbols, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. This was no ordinary facility. It was something ancient, something the Hyrillians had been hiding from the rest of the universe. "Captain, we're getting close," Quinn said, her voice sharp. She was ahead of the group, her tech gear beeping softly as she monitored the data. "I've hacked into their systems. The structure beneath us, it's a weapons facility, but it's unlike anything we've ever encountered." "Good," Hayes replied, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the dark, empty halls. "We need to destroy it before the Hyrillians can use whatever they're hiding. We can't let them win this." As they approached the main chamber, Quinn stopped, her face a mix of awe and concern. "Captain, you need to see this. This isn't just a weapon, it's something much worse. This facility, it's a hybrid of biological and technological systems. They've been experimenting with something they shouldn't have." Before Hayes could respond, a low growl echoed from the shadows. The sound sent a chill down his spine, and he turned, rifle raised. But there was nothing but the eerie hum of the facility's core. Then, the door ahead of them slid open with a sharp hiss. The room beyond was enormous, filled with strange machines and tanks that pulsed with an unnatural glow. At the center of the room stood a large containment chamber, its transparent walls revealing something moving inside, something massive, something powerful. "Captain, that thing, it's alive!" Quinn whispered, her voice trembling. "This is what they've been hiding." Inside the chamber, a creature, half human, half machine, was suspended in a viscous fluid. Its body was a grotesque blend of organic tissue and mechanical parts, wires and tubes running through its veins. Its eyes were open, glowing with an unnatural light. It was massive, easily the size of 3 men, and its muscles rippled with raw, unnatural power. The creature's body twitched, as if it were aware of their presence, its gaze locking onto them with a chilling intelligence. Hayes stepped forward, his heart racing. He had seen horrors before, but this was something beyond anything he could have imagined. "What is this?" Hayes demanded, his voice rough. Quinn's face was pale as she accessed the facility's mainframe, her fingers trembling over the console. "It's a bioweapon. But it's not just any weapon, it's a hybrid. The Hyrillians have been using Earth's genetic material in their experiments, trying to create the perfect soldier. They've been making us into their weapons." The words hit Hayes like a punch to the gut. Humanity's fight for survival hadn't been just about resisting an alien force, it had been about something far darker. The Hyrillians had been experimenting with humanity's very DNA, turning Earth into a breeding ground for weapons of war. And they hadn't just been fighting to invade, they had been preparing for something much bigger. "Captain, we need to destroy this facility," Quinn urged. "If the Hyrillians unleash this creature, they'll conquer the entire galaxy." Hayes nodded, but his mind raced. Destroying the facility was no longer just a strategic move, it was a moral imperative. If this monster was allowed to exist, there would be no stopping the Hyrillians. They would have the ultimate weapon, one capable of wiping out entire civilizations with ease. But as he raised his rifle to take aim, the creature's eyes flashed with a sudden, horrifying intelligence. It let out a guttural growl, its body thrashing violently against its restraints. The entire facility shook as the creature's power surged, its mechanical limbs snapping against the containment field. "Captain?" Quinn shouted, her voice panicked. "We need to shut it down now. We can't let it escape." But it was too late. The containment field sparked, then shattered. The creature roared, a deafening sound that filled the room, and in an instant, it was free. The mechanical parts of its body whirred to life, its enormous limbs swinging out as it broke free from the wreckage of its chamber. "Fall back!" Hayes yelled, firing his weapon at the creature. But his shots barely penetrated its armored skin. The creature's body rippled with power, and it charged toward them with terrifying speed. "Run!" Hayes ordered, retreating with his squad toward the exit. The creature's growls echoed behind them, each step it took shaking the ground beneath their feet. "Captain, we need to get to the control room!" Quinn shouted, running beside him. "I can overload the facility's core. It's our only chance!" They sprinted down the corridor, the creature's footsteps thundering behind them. Hayes could hear its claws scraping against the metal floor, its roar growing louder with each passing second. His mind raced. He couldn't afford to make a mistake. One wrong move, and humanity's last hope would be lost. They reached the control room, and Quinn immediately began hacking into the system, her fingers flying over the keyboard as the countdown to the creature's escape continued. Hayes could hear it pounding toward them, but he couldn't afford to look back. This was it. Their final chance. "Quinn, hurry!" Hayes urged. "I'm trying!" She gasped, her face drenched in sweat. "Just a few more seconds." The door to the control room slammed open, and the creature lunged at them, its glowing eyes fixed on Hayes. But just as it reached them, the facility shook with an earth-shattering explosion. The core had been overloaded. The creature howled in pain, but its roar was cut short as the facility began to collapse around them. The walls cracked, the ceiling caving in as the power systems failed. Hayes and his squad barely managed to escape through a nearby exit as the building crumbled behind them, the once imposing Hyrillian stronghold reduced to rubble. As they stumbled into the open air, the distant sounds of gunfire and explosions filled the sky. The battle wasn't over. But they had done it. They had stopped the Hyrillians from unleashing their greatest weapon. Hayes turned to Quinn, who was breathing heavily but smiling despite the carnage around them. "We're not done yet," Hayes said, his voice steady despite the exhaustion weighing on him. The war's just begun. Quinn nodded. We fight. We survive. We win. And for the first time in a long while, Hayes believed it. And,